medical educator, a healthcare entrepreneur, and a public health advocate with extensive experience in clinical practice, leadership, and medical training. He currently serves as an honorary consultant at the Adekunle University of Technology Teaching Hospital, LTH, Ogbomoso, and lectures medical students in obstetrics and gynecology at the College of Health Sciences, Laos. We didn't clap to that. Thank you. He has held notable leadership positions, including the head of clinical services at the Nigerian Police Hospital, Faro, Lagos, like this. All right. And I think I remember that he was once the president of ARP, Laute Ogbomoso. Dr. Adebayo's professional interests spans maternal and reproductive health, medical education, leadership, and community healthcare development. He is a fellow of the Medical College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, a member of the West African College of Surgeons, and an associate of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, UK. Beyond medicine, he is an accomplished entrepreneur and humanitarian who has founded several healthcare establishments and the Adebayo Dream Humanitarian Foundation, which provides healthcare outreach and community support services across Nigeria. He is also the chairman of our Ventures Committee in the college and the main driver to the establishment of our crèche, the first crèche we have in the college.
The problem. And so, apart from the miracle of conception, where, the mother of the woman makes and millions of sperm come out, and then everybody is in this race to know which one to do the test, who does the number one. And eventually one comes to the egg, and, penetrates the zona inside that, and then comes a baby. Apart from that miracle, there's a it goes on to tell us that there's certain things that happen when after that conception has actually happened. So it dates back to even before pregnancy. From the time you are posting your name, or you are accepting, I know the same way you're also supposed to mention, right? Where you know that what becomes your mental capacity or your neurodevelopmental capacity is a mixture of things. Your genetics. So you take 50% from the man and you take 50% from the woman. Then one of the things I want to tell you is the concept of epigenetics, how environment and behavior now modifies the gene to now express themselves in certain ways that these areas don't change. The DNA is manual. But there are a lot of epigenetic transformation that happens to that DNA, such as expressions, and these things are basically environmental as it affects what we become. So on the right side, on the left note, I was talking about like that. So if you toast, if your baby has hooked up, you do it to if the person you are going to remind, because you cannot have an idea, I was talking to my wife yesterday, and my daughter did something. I was telling you directly that when you leave a pen or that everything is you. I said, go on. It's me. If there's any bad one, I'm going to back. So if you are dating or marrying a very angry temperamental person, you're likely to give birth to angry people. I was talking about what I said. It is so bad that it's getting to a point where you start thinking about it even before you marry. That you're not just, you don't like that person. they sleep with people, they give them to children. So naturally, and this is true, they will also grow in that environment, become like them. That's why we need to move it in the box. We need to. Because if there's proliferation of this, and it will only continue. I pray to God continue. I know when I say that, I mean our hearts are to that. I pray God will come and sit in God's grace. So if you move on, okay, so let me move on quickly. So, okay, this is my, sorry, let me just tell you, follow me. I'm a businessman, and I'm collecting money from Facebook, so please join me. Our mindset, when we talk about culture and those other things that we're talking about, as the case may be. So that's the perinatal of the festival, where we say, and you know, what it helps us to think about is, and if you notice, most of the time, I want to know where the problem starts about neurodevelopment, physical and ethical development is that 60% of the pregnancies we have in Africa are wanted. 60%. Only 40% are 30-40% are wanted. So that means you are already getting pregnant with something you don't want. And one of the major factors that cause differences, that cause variation, that causes mental health problem is stress, which I will talk about in a minute. So you can imagine what it is. Neuroscience begins to show us, and you'll be surprised, you know this either true that now you can sing to your baby. Your baby now recognizes your voice. I can't go. It's not like that. You know what I'm saying? That you're already recognizing your voice. The voice of the person, even the partner that is singing to it. So you know it's really, it's like, you know, so there are it's true, as the case may be. So these are the critical times. Let me move into this. Okay. So what we are, so there's a framework like something that puts it together, try to extensively analyze the developmental origin of health and disease. So I think I'm trying to go through that. This is start. I'm trying to make a video that this is already started even long before. And I'll give you some research results. I'll just try to summarize it and grow. So the other study in our framework also demonstrates that the environmental exposures during prenatal life permanently program clinical outcomes. I just came back from a conference in the UK, and one of the things we talk about there is perinatal mental health. That means the mental health of a woman while before pregnancy. Because in reality, that's how you actually there is some plan, right? In reality, pregnancy is just a plan. I want to get pregnant. Then I get pregnant, right? Not, I'm getting married because I got pregnant. You know, I think I'm not going to work so much these days. If you get pregnant, you know that you don't say that, you must marry. Women do anything. That's why I'm telling you that Americans are the only one that is doing it in the first place as a Christian. Okay? So the framework talks about that. And so when the fetus experiences infant, so let me just go to the next slide. So there are 4 or 5 things that are 4. I can see there. Evidence-based. Nutrition. What's the second one? What's the third one? What's the fourth one? It has been proven that all these 4 things plus others determine a lot what the neural development of the baby becomes, even when the baby becomes an offspring. And I'll try to explain from this. Let me just go into nutrition. Let me move. So, intrauterine health is every mapped by maternal metabolic status. Let me pick one. So in nutrition we have over-nutrition, right? Which is what we want to call the obesity. Obesity kind of that, where your BMI is more than a certain level, and all that. And then they would have under-nutrition. In fact, in the days of those wars that we have had in the past, civil war and all that, when people were grossly undernourished, studies show that after some time, most of them have 3 to 4 times increased risk of ADHD, schizophrenia, and autism. just because the mother did not eat well when she was pregnant. And it's very funny because they now found that if the undernutrition is more profound in the first trimester, you understand? They have more autism and attention ADHD. You know what ADHD is, right? And ADHD. If the undernutrition happens more towards the last trimester, you have more mood disorders. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. LLDs, okay? And case maybe. Now, beyond the undernutrition, overnutrition will be missing as it is, and also be linked with increased risk of all those personality disorders and neurodevelopmental as case maybe. In fact, it is even found that certain diets, some of them you already know. For example, folic acid. We know that already. That if you don't have enough folic acid in your system, you already have possibility of having neural defect. Because you already know what neural is, right? And that is people that grow up, you not see them, they have spinal failures and all that. That is quite common. In fact, next time you have anybody that has congenital anomaly, and you are preparing for another pregnancy, what we usually do is to say, let the person start taking folic acid as one of those things. But beyond folic acid, general nutrition, if it's too much, is a problem. Omega 3 is something like fatty acid, iron, iodine, choline. In fact, choline, maybe the next slide, is as we found that if you don't have so much choline, you are going to have less brain function and less short-term memory. You can say how something as little as micronutrients and cases or whatever it is, you think how small those things can be. So undernutrition, overnutrition, and so when we joke about it and we say when you are pregnant, try your best to eat well and all of that, you can see how important this can be. Okay? Now, another one, this is time to reason, right? Say stress. And you know, stress. Because generally, if you want to say what of stress, another one that is very common in our environment is infection. Infections trigger inflammatory responses, cytokines, and a lot of variation just happens. Epigenetics just happens. You know, form those things that come up from it. And in fact, I'll give you some figures, not figures, some. So those that have had influenza, the what we call the flu, right? Influenza infection increase autism in children, in youngsters. Measles, rubella, polio was found that mothers that were exposed to those infections was increased schizophrenia in their households. The third one, COVID, herpes, okay, and even some bacterial infections. It was shown that COVID-19 and those infections lead or led to increased cryptopenia and neurodevelopmental disease, bacterial infection, which eventually also leads to ASD, and the autistic spectrum disorders, that is, and psychiatric disorders. So when we say, in fact, generally speaking, I read also, I didn't put in the slide, that anytime a woman has a fever, are you with me? Anyway, a woman has a fever. I tell you one of the things the child asks for, Dr. Abi, when you play some samples in the baby, say the woman has fever, the dog in hair. Every time the woman has a fever, then we have genesis. Of course, we don't blame her. Because of that, even in pregnancy, we make sure that those people, women take a lot of things. Sometimes we give them antibiotics, we give them prophylactic anti-malaria, we check on them to make sure that there's a need for them to make sure that they don't have fever, because that's a possible epigenetics and can lead to all these things that I talked about. I'm trying to rush on. Okay, so toxins and other teratogens. Okay, so chemical teratogens pass directly to fetal circulation. I think you know all of these things. It's not good to be surprised that cigarette smoking, right? It will cause apoxia, they will create inflammation, they will try to adapt. And in adapting, there's a change in their DNA expression. And some of these things, are permanent. Some of these things you have to work on it. The person has to live with it as much as possible. Okay? So exposure to toxins, cigarette smoking, alcohol, and heavy metals, radiation. I'm sure that radiation, as we can also show, can lead to increase of behavioral and psychiatric problems. Also, age that affects the gene and gene expression. Also, alcohol. And I was mentioning this because I hope you all know that in 26, in 2023, WHO declared all forms of alcohol as dangerous. How do you know? Because somehow, even in the books, except the very recent books, when we write for pregnant women that some units of wine or alcohol is acceptable, nothing is known acceptable. In fact, I'm not saying, I know sometimes we have to, and it's funny. It's funny because even for some of us that say we take little red wine, that we don't really drink alcohol, it's still poison. And then you give it to the woman too. And then she drinks it. And I'm sure, I'll tell you, there's something called fetal alcohol syndrome. With all the breast defects, anencephaly, mental retardation, low IQ that comes with consumption of alcohol. Please note. And it's good to say it because we say choose your poison, right? We all have our shit. Some things that, say, like I don't think about your book. Okay, so I'll look at it. And I'll say, okay, I want to take this poison. I will not justify it in my heart. But I'm not taking it for a week or 2 weeks. So they just not for you to know. No, because I checked it again. I used to talk about it, and I used to say it on 8 cubes, 10 cubes. And I know that I got 13 cubes in sugar. I know you talk about obesity. I want to mention diabetic mellitus. That's doing a low cost of neurological defect of any form of congenital anomaly that you can think of. Okay? And so what it means is that if the pregnant woman is taking coke, she's actually taking, it's like you just sat down with this packaged sugar. Just think about that's what you go. How long have we taking it today? If they don't give us coke today, we will fight. Right? What you don't do is that you sat down with the pack and you're feeling thing. 1, 2. When you are drinking that thing and giving you that fizzy feel, what you're not doing is that you're taking 18 cubes of that. And that way you're taking as just a little. So now imagine you, if you're like me many years ago, where we used to take 2 or 3. No, that time I always had to doing surgery and those kind of things. So whenever you don't come out, take up, it's like energy drink is also. It's very funny. So I took my son somewhere to be able to buy this thing, and he told me that he wants to drink. 11 days old. Which energy are you looking? Okay, so let me go. I'm almost done now. Okay? So alcohol effects causes hypothermia and lifelong cognitive functions. Okay? I'm concluding now. Okay. So caring for the fetus in utero or in utero is essential for the neurodevelopmental development. I hope I'm able to confuse you, right? Alright? And that adequate diet, antenatal care, exercise, reduce stress, rest and avoidance of infection and toxin are crucial. One of the things I want to write is that please we should plan our pregnancy. I think I said that to my mother. 4 days ago in one of our hospitals in Lagos, and I'll close with that. A man was rushed in, a pregnant woman was rushed in from the traditional birth attendant. Apparently, the man thought he had a twin pregnancy. So at the TBA center, they took the 2 deliveries. They were able to do the 2 deliveries. And then, immediately after they took the second delivery, they just saw another one. So of course, and it was, if you're saying and, it means that it's an abnormal presentation. The normal presentation, the best is head, right? Or manageable. Okay, bottom is manageable. But and is most likely transverse. It is most likely is like this. So of course, she got there and rushed to a hospital. And this family already has 5 children. So in his mind, because he had done a lot of scans, and the scan said méjì ló wà bẹ́ẹ̀ ó ti accept faith ó lè pé ó ti plan tó ṣe máa tọrọ. Understand? Ọ̀gá ẹ̀ tí mo fẹ́ yẹn lọ ó padà ní mẹ́rin. So my doctor rushed, because that's canvas. My doctor rushed into the theater. It was not something that we have to do. With the mindset that we only remaining one. And then come delivered the first baby. There's another bag of money. Even this is shock you, he shocked my doctor too. And he brought out two. But the funny part is that when they brought extra two to the man outside, the man actually fell down. I started crying. True story. The man outside was crying around the house. So number one, I don't know the neurodevelopment of that time. Inside in and I don't know what the person will go through for the next 2 years or for the next 5 years. That's why I was saying it's better to plan. And then it's funny because that same day with my gynae clinic, and the most people I saw in the gynae clinic were people searching for children. I remember one of them even told me in the clinic that call over to the familiar. As well as something like that. Go over to the familiar. No matter what that is, that I will praise him, I will thank him. The same day, in your conflict, the judge no phone me, Mary. Is that the interpretation on neuroscience? I'll leave you with that. Thank you.